And I will warn every man I come near, be he a preacher. Did you receive the word with joy? You can go to extremes, though. I had a man stand up and shout at me that you can be lost after salvation. So I said, true salvation. So he says, I said, after how many sins? Just one sin, and you're damned. You're unsaved. I said, John Wesley didn't preach that. Anything but that. And you say you're a Wesleyan. And he quoted a few scriptures. I didn't have to say a word. He was never allowed back in our pulpits again. No man can pluck them from my hand. He that hath begun a good work in you shall finish it. I believe that if you're saved. God is with us. Safe am I. You remember that? Safe am I in the hollow of his hand. No man will pluck you from my hand. Sheltered o'er, in the hollow of his hand. No foe can harm me, nor yet alarm me, with Jesus by my side. Sheltered o'er, safe am I, in the hollow of his hand. What shall we say then? Romans 8:31. If God be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own Son, but delivered him up for us all freely, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who is he that condemneth? It is Christ that died. It's Christ that died. He also rather is risen again, who is at the right hand of God, who also maketh intercession for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or all these things? No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through Jesus Christ. I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things to come, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of Christ. I am! Hallelujah. I have no doubt that I'm safe. If all the scriptures correspond to what I believe, God warns those who aren't safe are still applicable. But don't give me a doctrine that gives the man the right to go out and commit murder. Don't give a man a doctrine that gives him the right to go out without fear and commit adultery and still go to bed without a blinking his eye, because nothing will touch him, because he came out of the meeting and received the word with all his heart, with joy at that time. Somehow there wasn't depth, though. Be careful, dear brethren, of all the things we say. I wish I could have more time, but I'm probably going to be excommunicated anyway. I may as well just do the worst things, eh? No. There was a boy who said, "Can I tell you a joke, Uncle Keith?" He said it in the lecture room of a theological seminar. So I said, "No, I do not believe in jokes. I believe in funny. You can laugh at funny incidents, but don't tell me a joke. Joy is the result of your relationship with Christ, not jokes. And you have more joy than people screaming with laughter at jokes. If you have the right relationship, you don't have to resort to jokes, and especially not in this lecture room." No, but I would believe you would want to hear this joke. All right, please, if you're very sure that this is appropriate, please tell us your joke. I was not impressed, by the way. So he says, well, there was this this Wesleyan Arminianist, and he hated Calvinism, and he fought. And, it was his enemies. He had contempt of this doctrine and these people who pushed it. And then he suddenly was told he was terminally ill. He had 3 weeks to live. And suddenly he ran around. And he was telling people that he believes in Calvinism. That everything taken from the doctrines of what today is regarded as, I believe that, I'm better. So they eventually said, well, how can you your whole life hate this doctrine and hate Calvinists, and now you're going to die? And he says, well, I thought, well, I better do this because if I die, there's at least one less Calvinist in the world. I said to this young fellow, I hate dogs, but I must say, that is rather funny. Vice versa. A good Calvinist could tell that about a Wesleyan who faced terminal cancer, terminal death. We have to be so careful here. Dearly beloved, I've dared to do something today that could crucify me. And I want to close with this statement. I once was in a church where a man stood up, a very intellectually renowned person. And I was a young preacher, and he said to me at the end of the meeting, I suppose, if we're to be honest, we have come to realize that Keith is a very strongly Wesleyan Arminianist, greatly influenced by hyper-Calvinism. And then just when we try to accept that, he unnerves us and becomes so Arminianistic that we can't believe what he's saying. We get unnerved. He says, but we accept every word you say, because you only quoted the Scriptures. You didn't say one word in this whole series of meetings. Even the appeals you made were the Scriptures appeals. Word perfect, just quote. But I learned something, my boy. I learned there are many verses in that Bible I've never dared to preach. But they have a place in the pulpit if we are to be faithful and not bias as I have been through fear of man. I will not acknowledge those Scriptures up to now. But I, for the first time, sat in my life with a man who had no preference or biased views, and began to realize that both views should never have contradicted, they should have complemented each other. You see, a man when I said to some American great theologian, do you believe in eternal security? He said, yes. Do you believe in eternal insecurity? I was taken to a woman who tried to commit suicide twice. So they took me. Her father's a great preacher. Don't want to tell you his name. So I'm not betraying you, sir. She came to the place that she felt that sin meant she's unsaved. Failure of any form. And she got into a tormented state where she literally tried to kill herself through the doctrines. Eternal insecurity is as damnable in my eyes as a man who says eternal security to the degree that you can go out and do what you want to. And you're safe. You don't have to worry about your soul.